I have a neighbor who's a railroad engineer. He drives a train for a living. He regales me with gritty stories of life on the rails, and with every one of his hairy tales, the golden luster of an unrealized boyhood dream of mine rusts away. One troubling story that sticks with me is about encounters with deer on the tracks. He tells me that in some cases, rather than being startled off the tracks and into the trees where they'll be safe, instead the deer will bolt down the tracks ahead of the train. He says no matter what he does, how much he sounds the horn and bell, whether he switches the headlights on or off, those deer are just bound along the tracks like the rails or walls they can't clear. He can't stop or slow the train much because there's a strict schedule to keep, and he'll get in big trouble if he's late. Ultimately, the poor, confused creatures grow exhausted. The train overtakes them, and they meet a real bad end. Crunch. Darwinism, he'll chuckle darkly as he lights a cigarette. Crow food, he'll flippantly conclude. The image sticks with me. This panicked deer loping along the tracks like it's bound to wheels enslaved to those rails, rather than legs that are independent and free. Blind terror drives it forward, oblivious to its salvation immediately at right or left hand. To what degree are we all like that misguided deer, locked into tunnel vision, bound determinedly to the path that appears most clear, that rolls easily forward to our own peril? Tracking. It gives me pause. Fear governs those unlucky deer, raw unbridled fear. They stop thinking in the siren song of it, and the gut instinct, higher logic or intuition that could save them is overridden. It's a bad way to make a decision. Fear. Just as they are blinded to their own salvation by that raw fear, how too are we blinded by our own fears? I make the mistake of turning on the tube, and I watch the news, and what I see fills me with fear. I listen to paranoid gossip at work, and it fills me with fear. I talk to my fundamentalist neighbor, and it fills me with fear. I hear my elected officials speak, and it fills me with fear. Informed in this way, am I not like that deer on the tracks, trying to bound away from what I really don't understand? A zig to the right, a zag to the left, really just a minor change in perspective, is likely all I need to begin to maneuver myself out of a bad outcome. Think about it. It might make all the difference. Those rails are only walls if we let them. If the deer calmed, appraised themselves of their situation, and made an informed decision in front of that train, they'd likely arrive at an outcome they could live with. I'd say we've got a little more on the ball than deer. So perhaps we should allow ourselves better decision process too, one worthy of our potential. Likely, in this way, through mindfulness rather than fear, we can find a more livable outcome too. We can determine our own tracking through the independence of our applied thought and guided will. The potential is within us. What is required is the foresight to get off the tracks or steer clear of them altogether. The choice is ours. Choose mindfully.